So now let's move on to the assembly part of our light seeking robot. As you can see in your kit, we've already attached both the BO motors and the wheels in place to the base. Now this has already been done prior because it might be a little difficult for most people to put these screws in place and to get this alignment right. So we've already done this and kept it ready in your kit so that it will make it that much easier to build your light seeking robot. So let's move on to the first part of the assembly. As you can see, there are a number of small holes on the base on which your robot will be resting. You'll also notice that there are two triangular shaped holes at the front and the back of the base. So in our first step, we are going to fix our caster wheel. As you can see in our caster wheel, there are also three holes in a triangular shape. So this caster wheel is going to fit perfectly under this triangle of holes. Now when you fix the caster wheel, make sure you've got the direction right. You're going to fix your caster wheel at the front of your robot, which is this triangle of holes right here near the front of the battery operated motors. You want to make sure that your caster wheel is put under that triangle and not the one at the back. So when it comes to fixing your caster wheel, simply take a small screw, put it right through from top to bottom like that, and just align it with the hole in your caster wheel. Once you've done that, take a nut, simply hold your nut in place, take a screwdriver, once again just take a different nut if you feel it might be easier. Make sure it's in place, screwdriver, and simply screw it in place. And now just align the holes and do the same thing through these two holes as well, and your caster wheel will be fixed. So now we've screwed our caster wheel in place. As you can see, it's nice and firm. For our next step, we are going to put spacers on our base so that it can support the top part, which will come on later. So you're going to take your long spacers, these which are the 1-inch spacers, the long ones, and you're going to place 4 of them over these 4 holes that you see, 2 in front of the BO motor and these 2 at the back at the very extreme ends near the wheels. So it's going to look something like this. You've got these 2 here and you've got these 2 here. It's going to look like that. So let's get on to putting them. First, simply take a small screw. You want to put this through the hole through underneath like that. Put your spacer on top and simply turn it till it's nice and tight. You can do the same thing in this hole. Screw it till it's nice and tight. Turn it around, take a screw, make sure you put it through the right hole here. Got that, and the last one. And with that, your spacers are in place. So now that we've got our 4 spacers in place, for our next step, we are going to fit our battery. This is an 8 volt 1 ampere hour battery, and this is what we will be using to power our light seeking robot. So to place the battery, what you want to remember is that the battery is going to come in between these holes you see over here. So place your battery like this, the wire out, and position it such that the very end falls just a little underneath this screw at the front. So after you've got that in place, you're going to take this holder which you see in your kit. As you can see, it's got two holes at the end. You're going to place this over your battery and you're going to put this parallel to the two holes that you can see on the base. Now take a long screw, the longest screw that you'll see in your kit, slide it through both the holes like that, make sure it's gone through both. Take the next screw, slide it through both and hold this down so that your battery stays in place. Now as you can see, your battery is being held in place by the screws. Take a nut, simply tighten it there. Take one more nut, tighten it there, and with that you've got your battery in place. We're pretty much done with the base part of our light seeking robot. So now let's move on to the top. Now this is the top of your light seeking robot. As you can see, this little part here with www.cirrd.com inscribed on it. This will form the top part of our light seeking robot. So to get started on this, we're first going to fix 4 spacers in order to support our development board. So you're going to take the smallest spacers that you see in your kit, the 1/4 inch spacers, and you're going to place them over these 4 holes near the square in the center like this. And this will form the support for our development board. So let's screw them in place. Take a small screw. Once again, you want to put the screw through the bottom like that. Put your spacer on top and simply turn it and tighten. Take your next screw through the bottom, put on your spacer and tighten it. Turn it around. One more to go. And with that, you've got all your small spacers in place. So next, we're going to put this on top of our base. So let's take the base part of our robot back, as you can see here. And when you place this on top, you want to make sure that you've checked a few things. So what you see here, www.cirrd.com, this has to be at the back of our robot. Now the front of our robot is where our caster wheel has been placed, as you might have already figured out. So you have to make sure that this comes at the back. So when you align it, you have to make sure that you've made sure of the direction. Now before you place it, you want to take all the wires coming out from the base, like the 2 from the motor and the battery, through this tiny square that you can see on the top. So take all your wires through there like that and simply place it on. And now what you want to do is you want to screw it in place. So make sure you can find the long spacer that you put there before. Take a small screw and simply screw it in place. And you want to do this with all 4 screws. And simply repeat this at the back as well on these 2. So now as you can see, we've screwed the top part onto the spacers that we had at the bottom, and it's fixed and firm. So for the next part in our assembly, we are going to take the 3 LDRs that we have, that is light dependent resistors. Now we are going to fix these on these 3 holes that you can see here at the very front of our light detecting robot. And you will also notice that each of the LDRs has a little hole right there on the board. So what you are going to do is you are going to put it right above the hole like that. Make sure you have aligned the holes, the one on the chassis and the one on your LDR, and put a screw right through, or if it's easier, put the screw through this first. Make sure you take a screw that really fits. Like that. Put it through like that. Take a nut. Hold it at the bottom. Take your screwdriver and simply tighten it. That's one. Just tighten that again. Make sure you've got your nut in place so it stays. Yeah, there we go. So that's one, and you just want to do the same thing on these two as well. So now we've fixed our LDRs in place. You want to make sure that you've angled them like this, with one facing forward and the other two at an angle like this. So now that that's done, we're going to move on to the next part in our assembly, which is fixing our development board. So before you fix your development board, which you are going to do on these 4 spacers here, you want to neatly pull all the wires out to the side so that it doesn't cause a mess, and you want to put your development board on like this, with the Arduino Nano facing this side towards the back and the DC jack in the front, as this will make connections easier. So simply place them over the spacers, take a small screw, make sure it's gone through the hole on your development board and the spacer underneath. Take your screwdriver and just screw it in. Find the next one. Just screwdriver and screw it in. And do this for the 2 holes in the front as well. So now that we've got our development board in place, we are at the last and final stage in the assembly of our light seeking robot. We need to now connect all the wires to the dedicated ports on the development board. So first you want to identify your wire from the LDRs. For example, take this one. Make sure that you've taken the wire from the left and connect that to the dedicated port for the LDR on your development board marked left. So the one at the very front is the one marked for left. So after you've identified the LDR, left LDR, take that wire and simply slide it in the port there like that. Now similarly, find the one for the center LDR, take the wire and slide it in the center there. And last, take the one for the right LDR and simply slide it in there. So now your LDRs have been fixed. So now we need to connect the motors. As you know, we've got 2 motors in our light seeking robot. So identify the wire from the left motor and make sure you connect that to the port for the motors here. As you will notice, we've got 4 ports, and well, the 4 ports are in case you have 4 motors, but since we are only using 2, we will only be using 2 of the ports. So the 2 ports here at the back are the ones for the left. So since we've taken the wire from our left motor, we are going to connect that in here, and then take the one from the right motor and connect that in here. And all that, we're almost done with the assembly of our light seeking robot. So the last and final step is to give it a power supply. So as you can see, we've got the wires from our battery over here. Make sure you strip the edges so that the wire is coming out, and you're going to give that in here. That's where the battery's power supply is given. Tighten it with a screwdriver. Take your black wire, insert it in the negative, and tighten it again with a screwdriver. And with that, you've pretty much assembled your light seeking robot. And with that, the assembly of your light seeking robot is done.